Good evening. Continuing with Chapter 5, we're going to look at Exercise 5-9 now. Again, let me pull up our textbook and see the information that's been presented to us and how I'll set that up on Excel and work through the exercise. Here we have Palmer Acres Inn, which is trying to determine the break-even point during its off-peak season. The inn has 50 rooms and it rents it at $60 a night. Operating costs are as follows. So before I look at this, let me just make a note over here. I have 50 rooms and taking 30 days per month, I can rent it out for a maximum of 50 times 30. Okay, so that's the maximum capacity for the business. That is if there's 100% capacity. Now let's continue with the problem. We have salaries, which is $5,900 per month. Utilities is $1,100 per month. Depreciation is $1,000 per month, and maintenance is $100 per month. These are all monthly charges. Again, they mean they are fixed costs. They're not going to vary with the volume, that is the number of guests that are occupying the rooms. The variable costs are maid service, $14 per room, and other costs of $28 per room. Chances are these other costs are things like supplies that are used, the linens that are to be cleaned, etc. So these two costs, variable costs, it's going to vary with the number of rooms that are occupied. The higher the occupancy, the higher these costs are going to be. And the fixed cost, it is what it is. So we have to calculate the break-even point in number of rooms rented per month and in dollars. Okay, so let's get to Excel and see how we'd set this up. Start out with our fixed cost and variable cost. The objective over here is to calculate the fixed cost. We have the four costs listed over here, with my total fixed cost per month being $8,100. I have two variable costs, with total variable costs being $42 per room. $4,200 per room. That will be like the Ritz-Carlton. $42 per room. We've been told that the average room rental charge is $60. We calculated the variable cost to be $42. Therefore, my contribution margin per room is $18. So a note I'm making up over here is the capacity. And the total capacity per month is, I can have 1,500 rooms rented per month. Okay, I have 50 rooms available per day, 1,500 per month that I can rent out. You need to keep that in mind. As we go through our break-even analysis, I'll circle back to that number and explain why that was important. So we have to calculate the break-even point in units. In this case, the units is the number of rooms that we're going to rent, and break-even point in dollars. At this dollar amount, what do we come up with? We will cover our fixed cost and our variable cost. We're not going to have any loss. We're just going to have our costs covered. It will be nice to make profits, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. So what do we have in the numerator always? Fixed cost. The fixed cost is in the numerator. We calculated that number to be $8,100. So I'm writing that down in both formulas, $8,100. What do we put in the denominator? If you recall from the previous exercise, in the denominator I have the contribution margin per unit in order to calculate the break-even point per unit. To calculate the break-even point in dollars, I'll write down the contribution margin ratio. The contribution margin per unit I know is $18. I've done that calculation over here. 18 divided by 60 will give me the contribution margin ratio. 18 divided by 60 is 30%. Now with this information, I can go ahead and do my calculations, which is 8,100 divided by 18, and here 8,100 divided by 30%, to arrive at our final answer that's required, which is I need to rent out 450 rooms. This is rooms per month, not per day. You can't do 450 per day because you have only 50 rooms. Okay, so if I have 100% capacity within the first 9 days, I've covered my cost. But chances are if you're in the off season, you're not going to have 100% capacity. So through the month, at least a third of my rooms have to be rented out in order for me to break even. So if I've earned $27,000 in revenues, that is 450 times 60, and that would be the other way in which we could calculate this number here. 60 times 450, if I get the 27,000, then I'm breaking even, which means I've covered all my costs, but I haven't made a profit. Something to be happy about is at least you're not losing money. Anything above this is when you start making money. Again, I hope this has helped us understand